uh, the Higher Education Leadership Conference, a breakout session that we have titled Higher Education Governance and Oversight, a course or a breakout session which I think is required of all new Regents, trustees, and so forth. The Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board is statutorily required to provide new higher education trustees and regents with training on specific topics upon their election to serve on their respective boards. This panel is broadly tasked to focus on the role of the governing board at institutions of higher education and the relationship between the governing board and an institution's administration, its faculty and staff, and its students, including limitations on the authority of the governing board. And I'm very pleased today that we have really a star panel here before us that is going to address a number of just sort of STEM questions, if you will, that we'll throw out among the four of us up here. I will try to leave time at the end for questions, maybe about 10 minutes or so that you can ask the particular questions of the panelists. I'll moderate this panel. My name is John Zarwas. I'm the Executive Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs at the University of Texas System. And to my far right is Ms. Donna Williams, is a Vice President and Program Manager for Parsons Transportation Group, Incorporated. It's a subsidiary of the Parsons Corporation, which is a global engineering and construction leader in facilities, advanced technology, and management processes. She has more than 30 years of program and project management, business development, and engineering design and construction experience in both government and the private sectors. Governor Greg Abbott appointed Ms. Williams to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board of Directors in 2018, where she has served as the vice chair since 2021. Previously, she served 10 years on the Texas State University Board of Regents, including as vice chair and chair of the board. In the middle, we have Ms. Elaine Mendoza, founder and president and CEO of Conceptual MindWorks, Incorporated, a biotechnology and medical informatics company in San Antonio. She has served on numerous boards and councils in the San Antonio area. She served on the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board as secretary of the board, chair of the Committee on Closing the Gaps, a great success, I will add, and as vice chair. Governor Perry also appointed her to the Commission for a College-Ready Texas, and she served on Texas Governor Rick Perry's Special Commission on 21st Century Colleges and Universities. Nationally, she was appointed to the Commission on the Advancement of Women and Minorities in Science, Engineering, and Technology, later being selected as the chairperson of that commission. Ms. Mendoza has served on the Texas A&M University System Board of Regents since 2001 and on numerous committees and chair of the board. And I might mention that I'm not sure if I mentioned this on Ms. Williams, that you served on the 10 years on the Texas State University Board of Regents, including as vice chair and chair of that board. I'm not sure I mentioned that in my intro of you. And to my right is Mr. K. Paul Holt, who is currently the chair of the McLennan College Board of Trustees in Waco. He was appointed in August of 1999 to fill an unexpired term, subsequently reelected in 2002, 2008, 2015, and 2021, and he was elected to chair in 2008, vice chair in 2008, and as the chair in 2015. His quote-unquote day job is president and CEO of Syntex AGC, the Central Texas chapter of the Associated General Contractors of America. Mr. Holt attended Texarkana College before completing a Bachelor of Arts and pursuing master's work at Baylor University. And so, if you would, please join me in welcoming these individuals to our panel here. So we have a few questions here that we're going to share among us up here, and then open it up a little bit later. And so I'm going to start with a question to Mr. Holt, and then move over to Ms. Mendoza on the same question. And it goes, as a trustee or regent, how do you think about working with institutional administration, faculty, and staff to advance goals, drive student success, and overall excellence of the institutions or systems you serve? And I think we'll start with Ms. Mendoza with that. Is that okay, K. Paul? Okay. Ladies first.
He said after K. Paul.
I did. I switched that up.
All right. Being agile here. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you all for being here and sharing your time in this regard. So working with administration, faculty, and staff to advance the mission and the student success metrics, and of course excellence. When I think about it, I think about our strategic plan of the system that starts from our institutions and works its way up to the chancellor and his team, and then the chancellor and his team work with us to further refine it. So there starts the footprint and framework by which we believe we're striving for not only increasing the mission, but also striving for excellence. From that place, then I think about data. All of those student success metrics that are so important to ensuring that we are delivering on the promise to Texans, to their families, to our students on acquiring or earning their baccalaureate degree in the general academic sense. We have to know the data. The data will show where we need to focus, what we need to improve on, where we can take the system to the next level for the student's perspective. Things like time to degree, persistence between freshman and sophomore year, sophomore to junior year, etc. We need to know the financial indicators, measuring debt. We need to know the success indicators, such as first year salary once they're hired, fifth year salary once they're continue on in their work. We need to know employers are interested in all of our students at our institutions to make sure that that's a testimony to quality, what we're doing and delivering to our students. So data. Then asking questions, making sure that we understand how each of the, in our case, the chancellor's recommendations go towards that strategic plan, go towards delivering on the promise to our students and their families, go towards being very effective with the state dollars that we are entrusted with. And therein lies a lot of ability, transparency, openness, that for not only us as regents, but also for the public. That's why we insisted on our student success metrics be on our public website. You can go to empoweru.tamus.edu and look at every piece of data, all of our institutions, who their aspirational peers are, what are our learning outcomes, etc., for the sake of transparency. So, Dr. Soros, just a quick blip on thinking about working with the administration and faculty.
You'll hear some similarities, but you'll also hear a couple of differences between two-year schools and four-year schools and systems. The first thing a community college board member does is work with their CEO. Your CEO, whether it's the president or the chancellor, is your only employee. Now, you are responsible for hiring the accounting firm and the legal counsel, but all the other employees belong to the president. So you don't go in and you don't get into operations. You simply look at the policy level. As Elaine said, there's data. And many of the things that we look at are course completion, number and types of degrees awarded, the licensing pass rates, transfer rates going to four-year schools, TSI pass rates, percentage of academically disadvantaged students enrolled, the racial and ethnic composition of student body as compared to your faculty and staff, and the percentage of your student contact hours taught by full-time faculty. We see it in governance and oversight by utilizing a strategic plan, and that document is one of the most important things there is. That is how the president is evaluated. That is how the Board of Trustees measures its own success by setting those goals and those visions forward and measuring where we are along those.
Great. Thank you all both very much for that. And our next question, I will start with Ms. Williams and then go to Ms. Mendoza and then Mr. Holt. I think we get it. Yeah, I don't want to throw another curveball at you here. The colleges and universities have the primary responsibility to develop the talent that will drive economic recovery and opportunity across Texas. As a board member, regent, trustee, or coordinating board member, where do you see the greatest challenge or opportunities to drive change within your institution, within your system, or statewide?
Great question, and thanks again for inviting me to be here. But I think we spent a lot of time on it this morning. when the three commissioners were talking about working together, K through 12, post-secondary, as well as workforce, Texas workforce. They talked a lot about the data and infrastructure, basically, to put everything together so workforce would know what K through 12 is doing, and workforce would know what post-secondary education is doing as well. Well, I envision that's like your infrastructure. That's like your air conditioning system. Nobody really cares about that until it's not working, right? So you need the ability to have the data, the information to share across the board so you know what you're working with. So some of the largest challenges is the collaboration and also affordability. Just going to school is expensive. And that's a major challenge, but I'm happy to say here in Texas, a lot of our systems have done really, really well. A lot of our students graduate with little or no debt, and they also have jobs when they graduate. So we have some challenges, but we are nowhere near what a lot of other states are experiencing.
Thank you. Speaking from a general academics perspective for our 11 institutions in the Texas A&M University system, you know, the rapid change in technologies, in fields, makes it really hard for a big system, a big institution, to bob and weave and be as agile as we like. And so while you know, the demand for jobs and the skill sets for jobs can change rapidly, we can focus on the overall learning outcomes that we need for our students so they're resilient, they are agile, and they can pivot. So they can move industry to industry, new jobs to new jobs. What is that old saying? The jobs that our kindergartners will have haven't even been invented yet.
Exactly.
This is where the general academics can play a part in partnership with the rest of the academic community to ensuring that we just make sure our graduates are prepared for change by focusing on the 6 learning outcomes that businesses have told us they're looking for in their prospective employees. Things like social and ethical responsibility, communication, globalization and diversity. Of course, you have to have your specific knowledge. If you're an accountant, you got to know what it's like, what you need to know for accounting. If you're a mechanical engineer, you got to know how to fix the air conditioning. Other things, communication, and ultimately problem solving and critical thinking. Those 6 areas of learning outcomes we need to measure to ensure, while the details may change of their specific area or knowledge, how fast is nursing changing? How fast is being an educator changing? How fast is the world moving that your graduates cannot just sit still in a set of data, but they have to be resilient and they have to have those other qualities of being able to be productive in a very close world with different cultures, focused on different problem sets and being able to solve them, how to communicate together, whether they're in a box over the internet or face to face. And surely they need to be able to be responsible and focused on ethics and society. So I would say that that's how, you know, from a workforce perspective, while we can't say this job will be there 10 years from now, we can say our students are agile, they're focused, they have those soft skills, if you will, of resilience, and they are good in these 6 areas of learning outcomes.
Thank you. Greatest opportunity to drive change in the community college has to do with strategic planning. Mentioned that a minute ago, and it'll come up again. Everything going on in the college should tie to the strategic plan. There are people all over the community that have the greatest ideas for something that would help the college, help fundraising, would be a new degree that all you need to do is go along with what they're saying, and that'll fix the whole community. Well, unless it fits in your strategic plan, it may not be in the actual mission of the college. Now, from a statewide perspective, one of the greatest, our greatest competitor or our greatest failure at the community college level is simply poverty. I think Mike Flores in the Alamo College District was first to kind of bring that to us and help us recognize as some of our institutions take the top 3, 4, or 5%. At community colleges, we only take the top 100% of students wanting to enroll. So that puts us in a little bit different perspective, being open enrollment and helping those folks change their lives, change their families' lives, and improve the community around them. Some of the ways we do that are with business partnerships, educational partnerships. We've talked about dual enrollment and how that is making a huge change and sweeping through. We started that a few years ago, and it was a tiny part, and now it's almost a third of our contact hours. We have students getting their associate degrees 2 weeks before they get their high school diploma. And one year, about 3 years ago, this is by far the exception rather than the rule, we had a student getting her associate degree about 2 weeks before she started her senior year in high school. Now that is a testament to the great quality of what can happen with dual enrollment. You can also do regional partnerships with other schools, whether they're K through 12, whether they're universities. We do several things with Baylor. We have a program going on with the new Amazon distribution center that's being built in Waco. There are all sorts of private, nonprofit sector and community-based organizations. And being in Waco with the home of TSTC, we work very closely to make sure that we do not duplicate programs. We've had a great cooperative opportunity. We started out on the same campus in 1965, and now we moved up in the hills in a lot more beautiful place, but they have expanded and done all sorts of aerospace, auto mechanics, diesel mechanics, and everything else at the Air Force Base where we all began. But the strategic plan and making sure that you're following that and evaluating that keeps you on track.
Terrific, great perspectives, and I'm going to follow up with you, Mr. Holt, first on this one, followed by Ms. Williams and then Ms. Mendoza. Share with the group, if you would, from each of your perspectives and outline some of the most critical responsibilities of a governing board member, including the fiduciary duties and roles.
Okay. Well, from a fiduciary standpoint, we are accountable to the taxpayers because we're elected and not appointed. We are responsible to keep the tuition low, keep the tax rates low, accept the lower and lower contributions from the state of Texas, and yet keep the quality of education at a very high level. The main thing is do not be political, work as a unit, represent the common good, set the policy direction for the college, and employ, support, and evaluate the college's chief executive. And once again, I go with when you have a question, contact the president or the chancellor. You don't need to contact other people. They will distribute those questions to the appropriate staff to get you the best answer. But your conduit to the entire college is through your CEO. Monitor the institutional performance and create a positive college climate. And we take our role, our 7 trustees, work very diligently to have a collegial perspective. We've only had one politician in the last, I'd say 35 years that I've been associated with it, and they moved on to city council and up and away. But we go around the table when there is a question or a concern until we find an answer that satisfies everyone, and that has worked very well. One more item is advocacy. Now, as elected officials, we can speak to legislators, we can speak to city council folks, we can speak to school boards and advocate for our community and for community colleges in general. And that's very important because those folks are elected as well, and they get it that we stand for election at the same time, in our case, at the same time as city and school board elections are in May. Other people hit different times, but advocacy, when your employees aren't supposed to do anything political, you're not supposed to use any college funds for political purposes, but we should use our personalities, our relationships to advocate for our schools.
And I would say ditto. In addition to that, I would say fly at the 20,000 foot level. I'm real good with my analogies, guys. So fly at the 20,000 foot level. Do not get in the weeds. In the weeds is not your role. Whatever institution, community college, technical school you're at, their role is in the weeds. Become closely aligned with the administration, the leadership administration. Know what the issues are, and just stay engaged. They mentioned on the board earlier today about reading your homework and getting in and knowing what the issues are. Develop the relationships with the senior staff and some of the staffers if you choose to do that. But when you have issues and concerns, stay at the top and make sure you report down. And when you do develop a good relationship with the senior staff, then they will let you know what's going on and give you an opportunity to participate in whatever decisions that are made. But the most important thing is fly at the 20,000 foot level.
Well, how do I follow that up? But both of them have already stated it. As an appointed, we are also hopefully representing the taxpayers, not like you guys are, but definitely that's our responsibility as well. To the point of having a chancellor, they are our only real employee person that the board evaluates and et cetera. The strategic plan, again, governs everything that we do, measurements against those strategic plans. So the way we have to think about governance is through being able to present the results. And the results both from the student outcome measures to the employment of our students at graduation or just after graduation, to the amount of debt that each one of our graduates leave with, the average amount of debt they leave with, the way we are trending in terms of tuition costs, et cetera. All of those things we have to take very, very seriously, and that is a responsibility. Working with our auditors on the fiduciary side, in understanding both from internal audit and the state comptroller's audit that they do, knowing where the pulse is and being able to get our institutions through the chancellor to speak to all of those issues, deficiencies, areas of improvement, and then hold them accountable for doing it. That is a critical aspect of what we do in terms of holistically looking at the system towards our fiduciary responsibility.
Great.
Okay.
Good, of course.
In addition, you mentioned auditors, and you made me remember, but on the coordinating board, we have a meeting with our auditor once a month to know what the issues are, what's coming up, what auditing they're doing, what the state is auditing. We get the reports from all the universities that have been audited, so we see everything. And he creates a spreadsheet, if you will, with everything on it. And if you want all the backup data, you can get all of that. But he'll walk us through what all the issues are at all of the universities, and that's very, very helpful. And also, if we see something that's going on, say in the news, say, I don't know, somebody's personal information was exposed, then our auditors will immediately contact the board and let us know where we are and what's going on and how they're handling it. So again, it's about relationships. Just take the time to know your senior staff. And when these things happen, it's really easy. It's much easier. It's just like your family. It's much easier to deal with them if you like them already. You know. So.
That's probably some of the best advice you'll get right there. So, okay, let's go to next question. I'll go to Mr. Holt and then Ms. Mendoza. And certainly, Ms. Williams, if you want to speak on this question, also feel free to. But what parameters do you follow to determine what is properly within your responsibilities and duties as opposed to those best handled by administration?
Is it a policy or is it a procedure? Policy is defined as a course or principle of action adopted by proposed by a government, party, business, or individual. Community college boards are the parties that set the policies for the respective institutions. And the CEO, all they have to do is deal with the day-to-day procedures and routines at the school. I mean, that's all they have to do. We have to stick with policies and not mess with the procedures or anything along that line. We focus on the vision, on the mission, on the strategic plan. We're not in the operational procedures or the day-to-day administrations. And whenever one of your coaches leaves and you get 35 phone calls about the next greatest person to fill that spot, you can go ahead and refer it to the CEO. You don't have to take them because you don't hire the coach. The president or the chancellor does. If new trustees are unsure about the parameters of the difference between policies and procedures, touch base with one of your more senior members or go with that individual to the CEO and have a nice visit. Every once in a while, it's really good to get a little bit of clarification. We have one trustee who's been with us through all three of our presidents. I've only been with two, and it's very nice to sit down and kind of get caught up to date on philosophies and look at things and just have a civil conversation, and it's pretty helpful. Once again, I'm going to go back to advocacy. Lots of times, trustees will have relationships with state or federal officials, whether they be legislators or Congress people or agency people. And if you've got a background like that, take your president with you and leverage that relationship and help get the person who knows the specifics in with those individuals. Yes, it may be you that gets them in the door, but you probably don't know the specifics that need to be done, but getting the door open is one of the most important responsibilities that you can provide to your CEO.
Okay, what he said. And I would just add, one of the ways to think about it is if there's a certain situation, let's say a professor that, you hear about, somebody tells you, my daughter did, is complaining about whatever. You have to think about, if I go directly to that professor, I'm hopping over the chancellor, the vice chancellor, the president, the dean, the department head. That's a lot of hopping. And we're not academicians. Well, I should say, I'm not an academician. I have no right to get down there at that level. And the same thing, procedure versus policy. We really have to think about all of the chain of command, for lack of a better term, that you hop over when you try to interfere at the level as you go down in the organization. Support of a faculty, support of a staff at the system level is exactly a right thing in concert with the chancellor. If you suspect an issue, then you have your internal audit team. You have your chancellor and his team that you can ask, we need to check this out. This doesn't feel right. That for sure. But everything that K. Paul has already articulated, and then just think about, those rungs as you move down the organization, how appropriate it would be for you to walk into your own organization and change something on the floor, so to speak. It's just not the right thing to do.
I'd like to add, at the coordinating board, what we do is we actually have a book to tell you what to do. So a thick book, and every time we get a new member or a new student, our student region is right there, our student board member is right there, we go through the training, and all the chairman who's up there and the vice chair and the senior staff will sit with the new member and we'll walk through the book to say, this is our role, this is everybody else's role. So we clearly understand where the line is. And it's very, very helpful. And I see Nicole up there, our general counsel, is on the call as well. But it's very, very helpful walking in, and if you have any issues, if you're an academic type person, you go to the book. If not, you call the chair or you call the a commissioner to find out. But it's real simple. Big book. Yeah. You have to read the book.
Yeah, there is that, isn't there? Okay, another question for all three of you, and I'll start with Ms. Mendoza, then Mr. Holt, and then Ms. Williams. And I'll be very interested in your responses on this. When you receive information that there may be a significant problem at your system or university, what steps do you take to keep yourself informed and appropriately engaged in the resolution? And feel free to give any examples that you all have in the really very, significant experience you have in this area. But an example is how and when do you communicate with your auditor? Some of this has been shared already. How do you communicate with your council and administration to protect the reputation of the institution without micromanaging the situation?
Okay, well, I think if it comes to you directly, my inclination is to always talk to the chairman, who the chairman is at that point in time, and make them aware of the situation. Talk about, does it go to a committee of the board? Should the chairman of a committee of the board begin the process of checking into it? And then, of course, talk with the chancellor and go from there. We talked about internal audit. Those folks report directly to the chair of audit in our case. That chair of audit works with, of course, the chairman of the board, but the board itself. So they are your go-to. Same with general counsel, the same thing. You would hope that as information comes to you, that you directly work with the chairman who then together figure out the right strategy, so that you're not a lone wolf going out there and trying to track things down or ask strange questions or, again, hop over several layers of command to get a direct answer. That can be very disruptive. It can be very destructive, and it's not helpful at times. So my first line of defense would be talk to the chairman, figure out a strategy. Where does it go? Who can help us that can keep confidential information, knowing that you have to keep tabs on that. And again, over the long term, how will you make sure that it comes to a successful conclusion? That would be my first start.
Okay. You said that may be damaging to the institution. Being part of a smaller institution, it's usually either a parent or a student that's calling. So there is no maybe about it. They are convinced that it is absolutely a disastrous situation in their particular case. First of all, you let them know that we have procedures for them to go through, especially students. If it's a parent, I suggest that they contact either the department chair or the president. But if they have to unload and get that issue off of their chest, take copious notes, and present them to your board chair and your CEO. And occasionally somebody will have something that there is a shred of reality to, but sometimes it's a personality issue. And again, that is staff. The president can handle that through the chairs, through the deans, and that goes back to personality. But the other thing is, do not, as Elaine was saying, talk to the chair or that committee chair to get it set up. Do not talk to the whole board. Do not go to a Christmas party or a social event at the college and visit with all the other board members and tell them about it, because that's kind of going against the Open Meetings Act. You know, don't create a walking quorum or don't daisy chain it. You know, be upfront, be an adult, and deal with it very simply. Donna?
I concur with what both of you said, especially Elaine. I was a regent for a long time, but on the coordinating board, the first person I would call would be my chairman, Fred Frias, and let him know what's going on. And I'm sure the second call, he and I would probably call the commissioner, and then the commissioner would get the general counsel involved. And depending on what the issue is, they would take it over and give it to whatever department, whether it's academics or IT or whatever, they would give it over. But again, you would fly at the 20,000 foot level, depending on what it is. But I think letting the chairman know and letting the commissioner know that you know, that's all you have to do. And if it's something that you want to stay engaged in, then the general counsel and the auditor will come up with a way to keep you engaged so you're not in the middle of it. You're still there communicating to you at the 20,000 foot level. So bottom line is, don't get in the weeds. It's not your role, period.
Great advice. And, you know, when you think about it, you know, these individuals, and like yourselves, their jobs outside of serving on these public institutions and boards is a job which requires them to get in the weeds, you know, and so it's really a challenge to dissociate yourself from that natural tendency, which in fact, you know, is how you day in and day out earn your living. You know, I mean, I'm an anesthesiologist by background. I'm in the weeds all the time, and my patients want me to be in the weeds all the time and stuff. But you separate yourself from the things that you do, whether it be managing a patient, whether it be managing your business and giving general direction, to what is a uniquely different role. And I think what these individuals have shared with you here today is really very, very relevant to what you're going to deal with if you haven't already in other roles that you've had out there. Last question, and then we're going to open it up to a few questions from the audience here. And I'm going to begin with Ms. Williams, then go to Ms. Mendoza, and then to Mr. Holt. And we'll make these fairly quick because I think this is a really good question. What's the most important piece of advice? And I would say you're probably going to say stay at the 20,000 foot level, Ms. Williams. But I said, what's the most important piece of advice you'd give new trustees and regents as they embark on their first year of service?
I think 20,000 foot level is one of them. But I think the first one would be honesty. The second one would be integrity. The third would be understanding the issues. You have to get engaged. You got to do your homework. You just got to do your homework, especially before the meetings. Give yourself time to get in and just read everything. And initially, for those of you, this is you're pretty new in the role. You will be drinking water out of a fire hydrant. That's just the way it is. But it will come clear the more and more you do it. But the more you stay engaged, the more you understand the issues, the better you'll understand your role. And you're supposed to have fun. This is fun. This is an honor. This is a privilege to be able to do this. So you have to figure out what's the best way for you to be successful, but you got to get engaged. And what that means to you might mean something different to somebody else. But you also have to stay at the 20,000 foot level as well. Okay.
Okay, so you have to stay at the 20,000 foot level. I think, first off, great I hope you will find that you are grateful for the opportunity and cognizant of the responsibility, that's for sure. And everything that Donna has outlined, bar none, hands down, is definitely the foundation for moving forward. Taking a step back, in this world of higher education, be it at the coordinating board or community college or general academic institutions beyond, I think we need to all be very well aware of the educational continuum. It starts at pre-K and it goes all the way through. For higher ed institutions, the only way we can be successful is to partner with our pre-K brethren and ensure that they're as prepared as possible to enter into the general academic institutions. And this is not a blame game, but this is something that we need to be hand in hand with. Everybody knows the data is clear. By the time children are 5 years old, a lot of those neural connections have been made, and that's where we're starting from. So at general academic institutions that have colleges of education, we at the system level in governance roles have got to ask, how are we doing in our colleges of education? Are we producing the best teachers possible? How can we highlight our colleges of education in the important work that they're doing for all of our citizens, and make sure that we understand that is our responsibility to pre-K-12. We have the educators, we have principal programs, we have superintendent programs that go through our halls. We issue those credentials. So what can we do in partnership? Everybody knows, especially during this COVID world, how important the supply chain is. We must recognize at general academic institution, our supply chain starts prenatal care, pre-K education, K-12, then it comes to us. We must recognize that, and we, at the system level, at the governance level, be able to ask questions about this, be able to measure our effectiveness of our educators in the field. How do we support them better? And mostly, how do we highlight our colleges of education? You hear a lot of research dollars going to colleges of engineering, and the A&M system, College of Agriculture, colleges of business, you know, the sciences, arts and science, all of that. The colleges of education are all important. And we need to make sure at the governance level, we're always asking about that and highlighting that at the 20,000 foot level. But ensuring that we understand as governance members of a higher educational system, we owe that to our supply chain, our pre-K-12 partners.
Even though we're at the 20,000 foot level, the main thing to remember above all else is we're not there for the president, we're not there for the faculty, we're not there for the administration, we're there for the students. The college is there for the students. As Elaine mentioned, the supply chain starts at pre-K through 12. Once they come to us, we're there to make sure that our institution is serving our students the best we can. How else to get involved? Go to graduation. Now, we only have 3 graduations a year. You may have 3 a morning. So
Depending on the institution.
Right. Depending on the institution made with all your colleges. But go to your graduations. Go to functions on campus. Now, don't go sit in the faculty lounge. Don't go to the cafeteria and just interview faculty. Go to ball games. Go to social functions. But just get a feel of the organization. Let them know that you're there and you care about them. You're not there to interrogate anyone, but you're there to enjoy and help set the ambiance for your own school. Read your board materials before you get to the meeting. If you have a question, email your CEO. They will appreciate having that question early. They can get the answer there for it. And that'll help everybody. I have a tendency to ask questions that I want everybody else to know the answer to. So when those come up, I'll send those to the CEO and then they can share that with everybody else. It's not a pop quiz at the board meeting, but it's something that's upfront, and it helps them prepare for us. So,
Well, thank each of you for those comments. I know they've been very instructive to this group, who is committing a significant part of their life to higher education and the governance level. And what you have before you here is people who really committed a very, very significant part of their adult life in terms of the furtherance of higher education. I served in the state legislature for 12 and a half years, and a lot of that was in the appropriations process. So I had an opportunity to kind of put my fingerprints on a lot of things, for better or for worse. And but the place that I found that I really loved, and it really led me to where I am today, post public service, is higher ed, because it was such a great differentiator for the next generation and the generation after that. All of us have been the beneficiaries of that. To a large degree, the state of Texas has supported us in those endeavors. And I think all of us, and including yourselves, are looking forward to being able to leave to our next generations something that was even better than we all enjoyed. And I think higher education is an incredibly important part of that. Please join me in thanking each of these individuals for their time here today. I'm not sure we have a time for a question or two, or do we need to get ready to turn? 1 minute? Okay, I got time for one question, and I see excellent job. I see no hands go way in the back. Okay, let's take that one in the back, and then we'll go from there. That's like a nice, easy question, for a minute. And I'm glad I'm the moderator and I don't have to answer it. So, but the question. So the question was, how do you balance your board role and that of the institution when as a president, or perhaps other people involved, when it comes to admissions? And we know that this has been in the headlines before and stuff, so I think it'd be very instructive for y'all to share your thoughts on that real quick.
I'll start, and then Donna will clean it up. Thank you for your question. Yes, in terms of accreditation, of course, we cannot do anything that will, hinder or make accreditation hurt our accreditation, for sure. Where we need to stop is on demanding that a student get in. We can pass along information to the right designee. Perhaps it's at the chancellor's level and the chancellor staff, but after that, stop. We have no right to ask that, hey, can you put this person to the front? We have no right to say, hey, I'm going to track to make sure that this person gets in. No right at all. So that's it. I mean, that is it. We have to be respectful for that. Now, others don't understand that in the public. And so it is a delicate balance, but you can't do it. You just can't do it. And so I don't know, that might be a very unsophisticated answer, but that's the answer.
The answer is, your response is, I fly at the 20,000 foot level. I will give you the name of someone that you can contact to see and make sure the application is perfect. Make sure you're doing everything you need to do, but here's the name. I won't make a call, because if the regent or the board member, whatever, make a call, then it's perceived that you want that person in. So put the action item on whoever asks, but the response is, I fly at the 20,000 foot level. It's not my role.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Great job. Thanks. Yeah, that was perfect.
It was okay. We can't do it any